To learn a little bit about Pesach, to understand. Everyone speaks English, yeah? To understand a little bit what Pesach is, and what's the Leila Seder, what are we trying to achieve, and maybe how do we achieve it? So everyone knows what we have to do, but what are we trying to accomplish on the night of the Seder? So there's a Mishnah that everyone knows, the famous Mishnah. We also say during the Hagadah, B'chol Devar Chai V'adam Liris Esatz Mekil Yatzim Mitzrayim, that every generation a person has to imagine himself as if they themselves are going out of Mitzrayim. And the Rambam says, not Liris Esatz Laharis, that a person has to experience it and also show it outward. There should be a persumanissa, a person has to experience it and show it in their actions, that they have to experience Yetzias Mitzrayim. So when we think about this understanding of Liris Esatz Mekil Yatzim Mitzrayim, l'chor, there's two simple ways how to think about this. One simple pshat, is that we have to imagine as if we were in Mitzrayim. Today we're here, and when we think about Leila Seder and we go through everything in the Seder, we have to Liris Esatzmoi as if we were in Mitzrayim, and tonight, on the night of the Seder, on the night of Pesach, we're actually going out of Mitzrayim. But the deeper pshat of Liris Esatzmoi Mekil Yatzim Mitzrayim means that not that we have to visualize and imagine to ourselves that we left Mitzrayim then, but as if we are leaving Mitzrayim now, and leaving our own inner Mitzrayim. And everyone knows that Mitzrayim comes from the word Metzar, comes from the word constriction, that Kol HaGolius Nikol Hashem Mitzrayim, all the Golias, every exile, every state of alienation or separation. This is really what Golus is Nikol Hashem Mitzrayim. There's a certain Metzar, there's a certain constriction, and the idea of speaking about going out of Mitzrayim allows us to go out of our own Shibud Mitzrayim, our own internal Mitzarim. And in the Metzar, in the Mitzarim, in the constriction, there are many different levels of constriction that we have. There's physical constrictions, there's emotional constrictions, there's intellectual constrictions, there's psychological, there's many different levels of constriction. And in the path of going through the Seder and experiencing the night of the Seder, we have to go out of Mitzrayim. And there's something about the night of the Seder, the Leil Yetzias Mitzrayim, that empowers us to leave our own mitzarim, our own limitations, our own boundaries, our own constrictions. In Kabbalah language, there's something that's called katnus and gadlus and moichin, which means constriction and expansion of mind. And in Pesach, we say that there's a gadlus before a katnus. There's usually maturity goes through stages, that you have to draw down moichin, you have to draw down intelligence, and slowly the process of building up Zaz Arampin is that it works through stages. But on the night of Pesach, there's a gadlus before a katnus. There's just a complete revelation that's beyond the normal capacity of the way we do things. There's Pasach. There's dilug. It's skipped over. But there's something about the actual night of Yetzias Mitzrayim that gives us that power that we can tap into. The Arizal writes on the Megillah where it says Vayam Me'el Niskarim V'Nasim, that the days of Purim are Niskarim V'Nasim. The Ari writes that Niskarim, through Niskarim, they're Nasim. That through remembering them, we actually create those events. So when we read the Megillah, For example, so the Hashem says if you read the Megillah that happened then, you're not Yoitza. What this means, that Arizal says, is by reading the Megillah, we actually recreate the potential for that miracle that happened on Purim, and how much more so on Pesach, that when we speak the Hagadah, and Hagadah has to be b'dibur, when we talk about the Hagadah, we talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim, this night of Pesach, we'll talk about it as this night. This night of Pesach, we have the potential to reveal the koyach, the strength to go out of our own mitzarim. So we have to understand what is so special about Tesvav Nisan that allows us to leave our own mitzarim. In other words, on an historical level, that's the day we left Mitzrayim. So we're remembering the going out of Mitzrayim, the day we left Mitzrayim. But we're saying that it's much deeper than that. It's not just that we're remembering today something that happened then. But we're saying that today, that when we're remembering the same koyach, the same shefa leki, that brought about the redemption, the Yetzias Mitzrayim then, is the same koyach that's now. That there's something tonight inherently about this night that gives us the potential to leave Mitzrayim. There's a mashal that's given of a king that he was traveling with his son in the desert, and the son was thirsty, and there became a debate what they should do. So one group of soldiers, one group of people, ministers, said maybe we should go to the nearest city and fetch some water for the thirsty prince. And then another group said we should go and dig deeply into the well, into the ground. Maybe we'll find the well and we can give him water. But if you weigh the two options, one option gives you an hour and then you get water. The other option takes 10 hours and then you get water. And the kid is really thirsty. So the king said he would like to dig the well to get to the water. And the son asked him why. He said, because now you're thirsty and we're going to get you a drink because I have people to send to the next city. But there's going to come a time when another father and son are going to walk through the same desert, and they're not going to have anyone to send to go fetch water. So by digging the well, we're going to allow for the next person to come and drink from the same water. And this is a very nice mashal when we think about the Yom Tovim. The Yom Tovim is not just that there was once a period in time in history that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that we were thirsty and gave us a drink of water. And therefore, for many years later, we remember that time. But the deeper understanding is that on Pesach, on every Yom Tov, the same water that quenched the thirst of the child thousands of years ago is available tonight. The well is there, and it's dug, and you can fetch the water. And the same water that brought about the Cheres in Yetzias Mitzrayim, that same water is still available tonight on the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So what is this night? In general, there's two ways that the Chachamim Ha'olam generally think about time. So first of all, we know that Zman itself is a Nivra, is a creation, right? It comes from the Hagadah Mezrich. In a parallel, the same period of time, the Gra says the same thing, Baruch Eisav Reishis. That is, Eisav Reishis, he creates time. The time itself is a Nivra. But in time itself, there are two ways how you can measure time. One is cyclical, and one is linear. There's two ways how you can think about time. So cyclical nature of time is that you look at the seasons, you look at the year, there's seasons. So now there's spring, and then the summer, and then there's fall, and then there's winter, and there's seasons. And they're connected to the agriculture, to the growth, to the plants, to the trees. And every single year, the exact same thing happens, more or less. becomes spring at the same time, then it becomes fall, then it becomes winter, then it becomes summer again, right? This is the same, it's a cyclical nature. Cyclical comes from the word, it's a cycle, it's a circle. And the way you look at time is that every year you're going through the same events as the year past. This year's Nisan, and next year will be Nisan, a year ago was Nisan, and 10 years from now will be Nisan. And every year we'll go through the same season. This is a cyclical nature of creation, of the way you measure time. There's a good marker for this actually in Kabbalah, and much older than the from the Exile, from Sefer HaKana, Sefer HaTmur, when they talk about the Shemitahs. I don't know if you're familiar, but that there's cycles, that the 7 days of creation correspond to 7 cycles, and every cycle has a Shemitah, which is 7,000 years, etc. And it keeps on repeating. So 1 year is a Chesed Shemitah, 1 year is a Gvura Shemitah, and it's a cycle of time that's recycling itself. I just want to say something about this. When you think about cyclical time, there's the problem with cyclical time, with the nature of cyclical time, is that nothing progresses. It's always the same thing. You're always in the same place the same year. It's just you're getting older, so you're having a different perspective of it, but it's the same thing going on over and again. Then there's another way of looking at time that says that time is moving linear. Linear means that there's progression. So today you're here, tomorrow you're going to be here, the next day you're going to be here, and you're continuously growing and progressing further and further. So there's a starting point, and then there's the end point. Yeah, so we'll say there's creation, there's the Isavos, and then there's Yimoisa Mashiach. So you're moving from point A to point Z, but you keep on moving further, and every year you're progressing. But the truth is that if you look at this, you'll see that according to the Torah, time, the way we're going to measure time, is not cyclical and not linear. The way you're going to measure time is that not that it's the exact same thing over and over again, and not that you're just progressing from point A to point Z, but another way of thinking about it is like a spiral. You know what a spiral is? So what do you do when you go in a spiral? So you start off here, and you make a circle, but you end up in a higher place. Then you make another circle, you end up in a higher place. Another circle, you end up in a higher place. So you're actually touching on the same points of the circle like you touched on the lower step, on the lower spiral. So you go through Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av. You're going through all the same points, and then you're going one step higher, and then you're doing the exact same thing. So you're going through the same cycle of the year that you went previously, but you're also progressing. You're not just progressing forward, and you're not just making a circle. You're making a spiral. You're going up and up and up. And every year, you're reaching a new level. So you're touching the same points, but you're going from a higher perspective. So if you look actually in the Torah, when the Torah describes the Yom Tov, there's Hagadah, Hagadah. These are very, for us, it doesn't really mean so much, because at least physically, or else if you're living there, it's Israel somewhere. Most people are not farmers. They're not Asif and they're not Kotzer. They're not gathering their fruits and they're not cutting down their fruits. But according to the Torah, every Yom Tov has two points to it. Every Yom Tov has a seasonal context and a narrative. Every Yom Tov is connected to the season. Zman Kotzer, Chodesh Aviv. That's the way Nisan is called. Nisan is not called Nisan in the Torah. It's a name that we got from Babylon, from Bavel. Nisan is called Chodesh Aviv. Aviv means spring. So that's connected with the season. Next year Nisan will be again Chodesh Aviv. And Sukkot's time is Chag HaAsif. This is connected with the season. With the seasons are connected to the cycle, to the cyclical nature. But on top of that, there's also the dimension of the narrative, and the narrative is the story that happened during this season. You follow? So what's the story that happened this season? In the time of Chodesh Aviv, which is spring, there was also Yetzias Mitzrayim. There was also a story. So when we celebrate Pesach, we have to understand that when we're celebrating Pesach, it's not just we're celebrating Pesach because it happened to be that Yetzias Mitzrayim was during Chodesh Aviv. Because if Yetzias Mitzrayim just happened to be during Chodesh Aviv, then remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim in the Chodesh Aviv wouldn't mean anything. Yetzias Mitzrayim is Chodesh Aviv because Chodesh Aviv, the month of Nisan, is energetically, spiritually connected to the possibility of Yetzias Mitzrayim. There's something about the month that has inherent qualities that gives the potential for Pesach to come about. So how do we know what this is? What's the Chodesh Nisan? So there's a few ways how to look at this. And one is starting with the Decoding. So the Decoding writes in the Hagadah, and it's later brought down by the Exile many times, the Priyat Chaim, and the Shar Kavanas. If you have one letter, one ois, you can make one siruf. You can make one combination. If you have two letters, let's say Aleph Beis, so you can do Aleph Beis and Beis Aleph. If you have three letters, you have 9 sirufim. If you have 4 letters, you have 24 sirufim, 24 possible ways of combining these 4 letters. And then if you have 5 letters, you have 120, etc. And then it goes into thousands, into millions and billions. Shem Hashem, the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the Shem Haviyah, which means it's the being of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol. In the mashal of the Rabbi Yosef Gatalian in Shire Ara, also in the beginning, is that where he talks about the different shemas. So he said the Shem Hashem is like the tree itself. The tree, and then there's the branches of the tree. So Shem Elokim is one branch, Shem Kel is another branch, Shem Adnai is another branch. They're different branches, different reflection of Hashem Echad. What's the essence? What's the essence of everything? The essence of everything is the Haviyah, is the being that allows beingness. The beer. There's no such word, but this is a good word. The beer that gives allowing full beingness. That's the Haviyah. That's the Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Yud Kei Vav Kei therefore has Haya Haya V'Hiyah, has past, present, and future, and it also means Yud Hoive. The Yud, which is Kacha Yaseiv, so the Yud makes something a continuous. So when it says Yud Hoive, it means the continuous creation of the present, the eternal present. This is the Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the Shem Hashem, theoretically can have 24 tzirufim because there's 4 letters, but the problem is that Yud Kei Vav Kei only has 3 different letters because there's Yud and Hey and a Vav and then another Hey. So because the Heys are the same, you can only make 12 tzirufim. So the 12 tzirufim, says the Decoding is connected to the Chadashim. That every month is connected with another tziruf. If you go a little bit deeper, every week in every month is connected with another letter. And if you go a little bit deeper, within every week, every day is connected to another sphera. And if you go a little bit deeper, within every day, there's actually 12 tzirufim of Shem Hashem and 12 tzirufim of Shem Adnai, which is the night and the day. So every hour of the day has another tziruf. And if you go a little bit deeper, there's 1,080 chalakim in every hour. You know when you say for Chadashim, you say chalakim, which is 1,080. The 1,080 chalakim correspond to tzirufim of Shem Hashem with the nekudas, and that's corresponding also to the amount of breaths that a person has throughout every hour. Which, on a very, very deep level, what this means is that every minute, mamash, that you take a breath is a brand new minute that never existed from the beginning of time. Because there's a new tziruf. There's a new tziruf, there's a new gilui of Shem Hashem that's particularly shining at this very moment, that never shined before and never will shine again. So when you say Machadav Shtuv B'chol Yom, that there's Machadav Shtuv B'chol Yom every day, every moment of the day, it means kipshuta, it means literally. Because every single moment, there's a schachas abriya. The schachas abriya is a new siruf, a new combination of Shem Hashem that's shining at this particular hour, this particular moment, this particular second. So Nisan, in general, the overarching connection between Nisan and the name Hashem is Yud Ke Vav Ke. So Yud, then Hey, then Vav, and then Hey. So it's the tziruf, like the Tikkun Azar says, it's Yisrael Shemayim V'Sagal Haaretz also. That is an acronym for Yisrael Shemayim V'Sagal Haaretz, which means that the tziruf comes in direct. Yud, then Hey, then the Vav and the Hey. The Yud, the Hey, and the Vav and the Hey, when it's in sequence, represents the perfect flow. Whenever the perfect flow means that the mashpia, which is Yud, gives to the makabel, which is Hey, which is Abba, the Ima, and then the lower, it gives birth to the lower, to Vav, which is Ben, and to the Hey, which is Bas. So it's a perfect unity and a perfect flow from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the Ein Sof, from the beginning, all the way down to the makabel, which is us, the receiver. There's no movement on our part. We're not doing anything. We're just receiving. We're open to receive the shefa. This is why it says in Medrash, and we say this, Halal Avodah Zarah, the Zohar also says Halal Avodah Zarah, Halal Avodah Zarah, right? There was a kitrug in Zman Yitzias Mitzrayim. And Hashem says, no, we're going to take them out anyways out of Egypt. What does that mean? It means that we're not participating, we're not creating the reality to receive what we receive on Pesach. The reality is given to us. It's the difference between a sursa de leila, in more Hasidic language, or a sarusa de latata. Sursa de leila means an awakening that comes from above, something that's gifted to you, versus something that you work on receiving. So look at an example, Lamashal. If you take the letters of the word Tishrei, which is Taf, Shin, Reish, so it's backwards, right? The Taf, then the Shin, then the Reish. Aviv is Aleph, Beis, then Yud, which means that the movement is forward or the movement is backward. Nisan represents a gilui, a revealing from above to below, and we're just passive receivers. And we'll understand what this means, how we're passive receivers. Versus Tishrei, which is the opposite, the movement down upwards. This is the general idea according to the Kunizar. And we'll get back to it. Sefer Yetzirah also gives us little hints to what the nature of the months are. So in Sefer Yetzirah it says that every month, for example, has a chush, has a certain sense. The chush that's connected to this month is dibur, is speech. And we'll see soon why it's so important. And everything about Pesach is going to be about speech. Chush ha-dibur. It also speaks about a letter. There's 3 mother letters, Shalosh Imayis, which is Aleph Mem Shin, and the Sheva Kfulos, there's 7 letters that are double, and there's Yud Beis Pshutais, there's 12 letters that are Pashat, simple letters. Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, these are Pashat letters, which means that they cannot be pronounced in harsh or soft pronunciation. These letters are connected to the months. So the letter Hey is connected to Nisan. Now Hey has 2 elements of it. On one hand, Hey is a silent letter. Many times it's used at the end of a word and it's silent, which means it's passive, which corresponds also to the sign, the zodiac influence or sign of the month, which is Tleh, which is Aries, a lamb. So it's passive, it shows on passivity. And we bring a carbon Pesach also because of that. And then it also corresponds to the Hematzos HaPeh, the 5 potentials of the mouth, which means it's connected to Dibur. It's connected to speech. So in Hey itself, there are different madregas because it's upper Hey and lower Hey. But the idea is one is passive and one is speech. And we'll see why they're both important. Another element, just to throw this in, is also that it's connected with the different Shvatim. That every month has a Shevet. And the Shevet that's connected to Chodesh Nisan is Shevet Yehuda. And Yehuda has to do with Apam Oida, has to do with thanking and being grateful, etc. So this is some of the things that we see in the month of Nisan. So this is just a sort of trying to create a context to understand what this is. You have Yud Kei Vav Kei, and you have that's connected with the Shevet, Yehuda, and it's connected with Dibur, and it's connected with Hey. How do we unpack this? What's happening here? And we say that Nisan, like the Maharal talks a lot about this idea that Nisan is the Seder Nisim, that Nisan is the order of the miraculous, that it opens up the possibility for all the miraculous. That's why also we have this allusion to this in the Torah, where it brings down that in Atbash, that every Yom Tov is connected with one of the days of Pesach, right? You're familiar with this, right? So the Aleph is connected with Tov, so that's Tisha B'Av, and then the Bay is connected with Shin. So the first day of Pesach falls the second Tisha B'Av, etc. And every day corresponds to the Yom Tov of the year. What does it mean? That the opening of all the miracles of the coming year, of all the possibilities that we can achieve throughout the coming year, is revealed to us on Pesach. So we have to understand a little bit also, what is a nes? What is a miracle? Or, if you want to ask it a different way, how do you create miracles? How does a miracle occur? What is a miracle? How does it occur? So the Maggid of Mezrich, the Mezrich Maggid, and it's brought down by many different Svarim from his Talmudim. He writes that, for example, if you want to make a table to a chair, you want to create from a table, you want to make it into a chair. You have a wooden table, and you want to make it into a chair. So what do you have to do? In order to make a table to a chair, you have to deconstruct the table, and then you can reconstruct it as a chair. In other words, yesh means existence. In order to create another type of existence, another yesh, you have to pass through something that's called ayin. In order to make one yesh into another yesh, you have to experience or connect with ayin. Ayin means nothing. So you have one something, and you want to create another something. Let's say, God forbid, a person is sick. That's their yesh. That's their metzias. Now you want to create something new. You want this person to be healed, not in a natural yesh way, which means a progressive way. You want something miraculous and something this person should be healed. Or any small little miracles in your life. You want something unexpected to happen to you. Not everything that you work is expected, because that's part of the teva, or appears to be part of the teva. You want something. The truth is, everything's a miracle. What's teva? Teva is also a miracle, but let's just separate them for a second. The Gemara says that a maimin is mishus zereo maimin. Someone that plants and believes. Why do you have to believe it's going to come? But everyone plants and that's what happens. But that's really a munah, because really there's nothing that's teva. But let's just separate these things just for logistical purposes. The idea of something to happen miraculous, because we're saying that Yetzias Mitzrayim was completely unexpected. Allah Avodah There's something. It's not that they worked on. It's something that's beyond them, and it came to them. So in order for that to happen, there has to be a state in between that's completely ayin. Because if you're a yesh, and you have certain expectations of what your yesh is going to be, so then it's just going to be a further yesh. So you can't create something. Nothing can happen to you new if you're holding on to the old. So there has to be the process of ayin. This could be conceptually, and this can also be experimentally. The Ramak writes in Or Yakar in Parshas Pekudei, writes that if a person, very simply, if a person breaks their teva, then teva breaks for them. That's the simple translation of this. If a person breaks their nature, goes out of their comfort zone, which means in their personal life they're experiencing some form of ayin, then yesh breaks for them. The yesh, that's the perception of the reality, what is also ayin, so anything could happen. Now the problem with this, not the problem, but the concept of how it's a problem, is, let's say, for example, you're a big tzaddik. We'll assume everyone's big tzaddikim in this room. Someone comes to you for a bracha. The person's struggling with health, parnasa, whatever. You want to give this person a bracha. You say that in order to create a new mitzias, you need ayin. Okay, so what's ayin? Ayin is total bittul, total nothing. So I'm going to deconstruct the person's reality. But then how am I going to recreate it? If I'm recreating it, it's already yesh again. And also, in concept, if you're mamish ayin, then you don't care about anything. If you're experiencing ayin, and you're really bottle, you're bittul mitzias, you have no existence. So you say the only way to create a new yesh is to be ayin, is to be in the place of ayin. But if you're in the place of ayin, you don't care about the yesh. So how do you navigate this problem? In other words, you can only create through ayin, but if you're ayin, there's nothing happens. So we'll try to understand this. Well, we'll go through this in a few pratim, a few details, and then we'll try to really understand this in terms of our own personal Yitzias Mitzrayim. Because it's nice to talk about the past and about other people, but it's very hard to talk about yourself. But that's what Yitzias Mitzrayim is. And everyone has Mitzrayim. Everyone makes excuses for every different thing. You have physical constraints. I can't do this because of this. I have no koyach. And I can't do this because emotionally I'm not ready for this, or I can't learn this because it's too beyond me, or I don't have strength. Everyone has their own Mitzrayim. Everyone. And Yitzias Mitzrayim means that you're given the gift. Some Sefer writes that on the night of Pesach. It doesn't even write, even not on the night of Pesach. He writes that a person is Mesaper Yitzias Mitzrayim. He can go out of his own shibud, and he can have mamash Yitzias Mitzrayim. So, how do we do this to make this really real? So the Zohar writes that in Mitzrayim was Golus HaDibur. That the Dibur was in a state of exile. The Arizal talks about this also a lot, but the Arizal talks a lot about Golus Hadas, that awareness was in Golus. And we're going to see how these things are actually connected. The Dibur, speech, and Das are connected. The Gra in Sifra Tzniusa writes that Das, Shadasu Lashon, that Das is actually connected to Lashon, the speech. Because Chachma Bina and Das is the middle column. The Lashon, he writes, the makar, the root of Lashon, of speech, is from the Goren. It's from the throat. The throat is between the shoulders, which is the place of the arms. The arms is Chesed and Gvura, is Yadayim, B'nei Yadayim. So you have Chesed and Gvura. So in between the Chesed and Gvura you have Das. It's on top. So you have a triangle, Chacham Bina, then you have Das, then you have Chesed and Gvura. This is literally on a physical thing. But there's something about Das, awareness, and speech that are connected. And Das, awareness, what is awareness? What does Das mean? What is it? There's a lot of conversation about Das. But Das simply means, you go to the beginning of the Torah, Adam Yada Eschava, that the Torah uses a euphemism, a mashal, when he wants to say that Adam and Chava were together, he uses the word Das, because Das is, like it says in Tanya, is also chizik v'kishur. It means that it's a strong bind, it's a strong connection. It's like when you know something, but you know it so deeply that you don't even know you know it anymore. That you're not conscious that you know it anymore. You don't have to know that you know it. It's like certain things that you know so deeply that you just do it. Certain information you know, and you're consciously aware that I should be doing this or shouldn't be doing that. That's not yet on the level of Das. You know it on a conceptual level, on a Bina level, or Chachma level. Certain things, they become Das. Das is a mafteach l'shtis. It's a mafteach to the emotions. When something becomes aware, a cotton has no Das, right? What does it mean a cotton has no das? You can explain a kid, there's very intelligent 20-year-old kids that understand better than 50-year-old people. But they lack the das. Das is when things over here become things over here. When information becomes so integrated into who you are that it becomes one with you. And the lashon, the speech, is going to be the ability to speak that truth, to reveal it. If you look through some of the major words that are connected to Yetzias Mitzrayim, paroi comes from the word pera. Avodas perach comes from perach, weak mouth. Moshe is a kvad peh, he can't talk. Pesach obviously is Pesach. Pisam Ramse is Pitahoim. Piacheres, the mouth of freedom. There's a whole thing going on with the mouth. What's with the mouth? What's the ability to speak? There's something about the constriction of speech, the gulas hadibur, and the ability to speak it. So we'll start with the beginning of the story. The beginning of Shmois talks about Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Everyone's given a name. Everyone's given an identity. And everyone has a voice. But all of a sudden, something very strange happens. Then it says, Vayirbu, Vayishutsu, Moed. Vayishutsu also is from, this furnace that comes from the language of Shrotzim. They become like cockroaches. What does it mean? A cockroach. You know, cockroaches, not to talk about cockroaches, I have no issues with cockroaches. But they don't have names. They don't have identities. That's Chai and that's Yosef, that's Har. There's a million different ones. They all look the same. They're all part of one thing. So what happens is that this group of people, and it's true, etc. That's not the point. The way the Torah describes it, all of a sudden these people that were proud people with a very strong name and a very strong voice, Nevi'im, which comes from the word Nifsasayim, which means they were speakers, they were people of speech, all of a sudden become silent. They're reduced to a statistic, to a number, without a voice. The Pashtus, this has to do with slavery. That's the first thing that people do when they want to enslave a people. They take away, they strip them of their names. We know this very sadly from our very recent history. You strip people from their name, you give them a number, and that's it, you're a statistic. But let's look in the Torah the way it describes this. So here we have the people, Bnei Yisrael, are in Mitzrayim. And then the Torah wants to describe the beginning of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So what does it say? It says, Vayikach ish mebeis Levi, Vayikach bas Levi. Who's this ish mebeis Levi? A nameless guy. Who's the woman of Bas Levi? A nameless woman. Why doesn't the Torah say that? Amar married Yocheved. And then it says that they have a child. No name. What's Moshe Rabbeinu's name? Tuvia, Toiv. It's not Moshe. That's not the name that he was given. But he's no name. When we finally do find a name of somebody that we think is someone that we think is a name, is Yaldei Ivrios, where it says V'shem Echad Shifra. V'shem Hasheni Pua. So what does the Gemara right away say? V'shem Echad Shifra and Pua. That Shifra is Meshach Peres is of Vlad. And Shifra Pua is also Pua, and that they're really not their names. Their real names is Yocheved and Miriam. And Shifra Pua is just a nickname. Why doesn't it say their names? It says Shifra Pua. There's even a Barbanel that says Miyalda Ivrios doesn't actually mean a pipshat, doesn't actually mean that they were Ivrios. Miyalde Ivrios, they were Miyalde of the Ivrios, that they were actually not even Jewish. So why no names? No name, no voice. And that's another question. The Yidden are hundreds of years slaves. They never complain. They never say, by the way, this is not really working out. Or daven, open their mouth, complain to somebody. Nothing? Wait a second. I'm talking about up until this point. Up until this point, they're hundreds of years there, they're quiet, they're silent, they're nameless. This is the depth of Golus Hadibur. The depth of exile of speech is that a person is so constricted, collectively, personally, internally, is so constricted, is so traumatized, is so stuck, that they can't even say anything. They can't even say, ouch, it hurts. Vayamas melech Mitzrayim, vayinach Yisrael b'nei Yisrael min avoda, vayitzakol Hashem tal shavasam el Elokim, vayishma Hashem es sakasam. What happens is, vayamas melech Mitzrayim. What happens when Vayamas melech Mitzrayim? So Chizkuni writes that they thought they're going to get a day off. Or maybe they did get a day off. Then all of a sudden, vayinachu b'nei Yisrael min avoda, vayitzaku. What does that mean? That their cry occurred because there was a break. Every day they're doing the exact same thing for hundreds of years. All of a sudden there was a possibility for something new, something different. Something new, something different. So why am I going to continue doing what I did yesterday? Then vayizaku, they cried out. The Rav HaKadosh writes that there was not even a tefillah. They didn't daven. They just said it hurts. V'atal shavasam Elokim, Hashem considered their crying out as a tefillah. Two separate things. Vayizaku, v'atal shavasam Elokim. Which means the beginning of their geula, the beginning of their redemption, was when they were able to say vayizaku. And that's why immediately the next pasuk is Vayishma Hashem sakasam, Vayisrael Elokim es brisai. Hashem heard, because when Moshe says Vehem lo yishmuli, because he's a kvat peh, Vehem lo yishmuli, the deeper pshat is that they're not going to listen to me, therefore I can't speak, and I can't speak because they're not going to listen to me. It's both. It's not Moshe's a kvape and they're not going to listen to him. The reason why Moshe can't speak because there's no one to speak to. And the reason why there's no one to speak to because there's no one to speak. Everyone is stuck. And kaviyachol, the kaviyachol is detached. There's no vayishma Hashem sakasam. Kitoris HaMagid HaYidua, which is also brought down incidentally in Nefesh HaChaim, Kashem Tzilcha. Hashem is our shadow. We're stuck. The Rebbeinu Shalom is stuck, Kaviyachol, and no one's doing anything about it. We're in exile. The Shekhinah is in exile, and there's a complete silence of everything. But the moment there was Vayizaku, the moment there was a little cry, there was a little refoyad, there was a little, Pari says, Tichbad avodah kinirpim hem. Tichbad avodah means make them hard because they became soft. Soft means they became open. Moshe, they were opened a little bit. When you open your mouth, you become open. When you close your mouth, Chazakti is slave Pari, so the Medrash says on this also that Pari said that he didn't have to go to the bathroom. There's something about that very deep. It's not just he was a Meshuggah. There's something very deep about this, is that there was no movement on his side. There was no letting out. He just wanted to receive. No letting out. But the problem is that everyone was stuck. Pari was stuck, Klal Yisrael was stuck, Moshe Rabbeinu was kvape. Everyone is covered, everyone's hard, everyone's stuck. Kinirpim means that there's a beginning of a softness on the part because Vayitzaku. And Vayitzaku opens them up and allows them to express, to give out, and that's the beginning of their story. What does the Torah say? That Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu that I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim. Why? Lamat Saper. So you're going to tell the Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. So here we have a people that in the beginning of their story are completely silent. They can't speak, they can't talk. Slowly in the process, they give Vayitzaku. What's the next thing they do? They complain to Moshe. Right? That it got worse. Mazbas al Pari, it got worse. So they go from a silent people to people that can talk, to complainers. And HaKadosh Baruch says, and the ultimate intention is, Lamanta Sapra, you should become storytellers. And you know how you're going to use your mouth? Your mouth is going to be so beautifully expressive that there's going to be a Kriyas Yamsuf and you're going to become singers. You went from people that were silent to people that can speak, to people that can complain, to people that can become storytellers, to people that become singers, to finally to the point of Kriyas Yamsuf, where it says, V'atam tachrishun, says the Zohar HaKadosh, so that's the level of Atik, which is the level of silence, which is beyond sound. So they went from a place that's silence, that they weren't able to speak, to silence, that they were able to speak, and they were talkers, and there were complainers, and there were storytellers, and there were singers, and then they can also be silent. But that's already a gift. When you're able to speak, and you choose not to, is very different when you can't talk. That's the real shtika. The shtika can be at a very low level, can be at a very high level. The highest level of shtika is kachal b'ritzayin. It's the level of keser. That's the level of atik. So they're redeeming their koyach hadibur. And this is the first ingredient that we have to do on the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The first thing that we have to do on the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim is we have to be magid. We have to talk the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's not Schir Belev, as maybe with a Shaila and a Tshuva. There's many different differences that the way we have to do Schir Yetzias Mitzrayim on the night of Pesach versus the night of every other year, the day of the year. The famous Krias and other people talk about this. But the idea is that you have to speak it. We have to speak it. And speaking on an internal level means we have to learn how to talk. Very simple language. You have to learn how to talk to God. Okay, everyone says we talk. We talk. Everyone's talking. Every day, you're talking to God. But I mean mamish like this. Not talking in a formula that says davening. That you're davening Baruch Atah Hashem, but talk. Just like you want to talk to me, you want to talk to your friend. You learn how to talk, to be open, and to speak everything. Because the redemption, the internal redemption from our own exile comes through speech. Through able to speak it out. I'm not talking about this on a psychological. I'm talking about actually talking to God, talking to the Hakadosh Baruch Hu. To speak it out. Pinchas of Karetz was once in the middle of Dveikus. He started davening and he said, "Rabbanu Shalom, please bring back my maid to my house." So Talmidim thought he's probably saying something very deep. They thought a maid, shivcha, there's a Torah of Baal Shem that the shivcha is your nefesh and your ruach, whatever, a whole Torah. He said, no, I mean kipshuta. My maid just left me yesterday, and she quit. So I'm talking. Who should I talk to? Who can I talk to about this problem if I can't talk to God? Chayzel Blin once said that if a person doesn't talk to God about parnasa, then he's not a mammon that God can really help him in inyan and neshama. That's why neshama and parnasa have the same gematria. Which means it's not just we talk to the Rabbanu Shalom for spiritual things. Of course, you have to talk about Seimil Beinu Avoscha, Yeroscha. Okay, these are very nice things. How about if your toe is hurting? How about if you feel stuck? How about if you feel you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything, your life is not moving forward? Everything, big things, small things, everything. You have to learn to open up through speech. This is the dibur. That's why the month of Nisan is connected to Chosha Dibur. Magid. You have to be a magid. That's the beginning. Then Vayishma Hashem Esakasam. If we're not going to cry, then there's no Vayishma Hashem, because it's Hashem Tzilcha. Or like the Magid say, Da Malamayla Mimach. Da Malamayla Mimach. What's above is a reflection of what's below. You're not moving, so why should I move? God says. You're moving. That's step number one. That's what Pesach night is all about. Pesach, about piachers. It's about the mouth that's free, the mouth that's open, the mouth that's not kvad peh. Moshe, the Zohar says, eventually becomes Moshe Yadaber v'likim nanenu Mikoel. Moshe eventually becomes a Medaber. From the kvad peh, he's redeemed and he becomes the beautiful speaker of Israel, because his speech is no longer Golas. He's a Yadaber. Everyone was stuck, even Moshe Rabbeinu Kaviyachol. And everything was being redeemed. The second thing. So this is the Dibur element. The Tefillah element, if you wish. The phrasing in words what you want. talked a lot about the Baal Shem. The Baal Shem writes that Tzarech levakesh min ha'oisius, that the words create reality. To create it with words. This is what I want. This is what I desire. This is what I need. Anything and everything. Another clue to find is the idea in the Torah where it talks about the first mitzvah in the Torah. The first mitzvah in the Torah is a Chodesh Zelachem. The first mitzvah in the Torah is to sanctify and to mekadosh the Chadashim, the Levana. The Pasuk says in Keheles, Ein kol Chodesh tachas hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. And the Zohar adds, Aval tachas levana yesh Chodesh. But under the moon there is Chodesh. There is new. Because what is the sun? The sun represents predictability. Yesterday it was there, tomorrow will be there, the same sun. What is the moon? You say Yisrael Moinen Levana, Yisrael Doimen Levana, because the moon is the unpredictable. The moon is connected with Chadashim. Chadashim comes from the word Chidash. It's a Chidash. HaChodesh Chadashim is not only do we have to connect it to the Levana, to the concept of what the moon represents, but we have to leave the concept of Ein kol Chodesh tachas hashemesh. The ancient Egyptians were worshippers of the sun. That's one of the Ra. That's why Para is connected with Ra. Ra is the name of the ancient deity, the sun god. They worship the sun. What does it mean that they worship the sun? They believed that the world is a very predictable place. If you're born a slave, then you're a slave. Loyal and vod. Right? It says it's not just because they couldn't. They couldn't. You're a slave. You're a slave, and that's who you believed. That's who you believe you are. If you're born into slavery, you know that you're a slave for the rest of your life. A person that's born free, he's free. He can never become a slave. And a person that's born Pharaoh or a son of Pharaoh is a god or a demigod for the rest of their life. There's a very strong sense of a hierarchy. Here, 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 and no one crosses. You can't cross the classes. You are, you are. Comes along the Torah and says, if you really want to go out of Mitzrayim, you have to believe in the possibility that it's possible. You have to have a munah. You have to have faith that it's possible that your life can actually be different. To have faith that your life can actually be different, to have munah, is something that you see. You can't see it, because seeing is the sun. It's hearing. It's something that you don't see. It's in darkness, in night. When it says that an Eved Ivri, that decides that he wants to remain a slave, so what do? You have to punch his ear. Wants to become an Eved. What does it mean? That the sense of hearing, he's not listening deeply. If he chooses to become a slave, that means he still thinks he's a slave. Rabbeinu Bechai writes, that's why he's called an Eved Ivri. Ivri is a Lekea Ivrim. Once Matan Torah, once Yetzias Mitzrayim happened, Klal Yisrael is never called Ivrim again. They're called Bnei Yisrael. Yisrael means a sar, they're a prince. They're a master. A person that's an Ivri, a person that still has the mentality that he's a slave, he didn't hear what the whole thing of Yetzias Mitzrayim was all about. The two things that an Eved goes out to freedom is if he damages the Shem V'ayin, the mouth and the eyes. So the Medrash says, because Vayavar Yagid, it has to do with Chum, that he saw and he spoke. That he saw and spoke, and that's why he became an Eved. An Eved is someone that's enslaved to what they see. An Eved is someone that says, this is what reality is, this is what I see, it can't be any way different. What's a free person? What's an Avadi Lavod? What's an Eved Lashem? What's someone that's connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom? Is someone that has the sense of hearing. Shema Yisrael. We don't say Rei Yisrael. You can't see it, but I believe it. I can hear it. I can intimate it. I can know that there's another possibility. This is the second important ingredient. The second important ingredient is the ability to believe in the possibility that something could happen. So you need speech, which is the Koyach HaDibur. So to leave the Golas HaDibur to create speech. You need also to believe in the words that you're saying. Tzarech lahamin. You have to believe. You need a munah, a very strong munah. Like Baal Shem talks a lot when he talks about tefillah. A person has to have a very strong munah. Talks about noyach, that he's a mama ve'ena mamen, or mikatne emunah hoya, because he didn't believe that his tefillah couldn't have an effect. That was his emunah lack. Not that he was not a mamen. He didn't think that noyach's his tefillah is going to stop the mabul. That's why he was in a mikatne emunah hoya. But we have to have a munah. Munah means that you're going to say what you want, and you can have a munah that the Rebbeinu Shalom could take you out of your gullus, out of your physical and spiritual and mental, any gullus that you're struggling with it. That there's a kol yachol. And even though you don't see it, you believe in the possibility and you speak it. But in order to actually create ayin, in order to actually create something different, the Gemara in Brachas asks, why is Misrachas Nishla? Why did miracles happen then? Miracles don't happen today because the Maser Nashma Kedushas Hashem. They have Mesiras Nefesh. In other words, in order for a miracle to happen, you need ayin. You can talk, you can believe, but if you're still stuck to the image that you are, you're still the person that you are. Nothing's going to happen. So here you see there's a very delicate balance. On one hand, you must have the ayin. Esayin alaharim, ma'ayin yovei ezri. When you lift up your eyes, where's the help going to come from? So the answer is me'ayin yovei ezri. Not I lift up my eyes and wonder ma'ayin yovei, from where my help is going to come from. But I realize esayin alaharim, ma'ayin. That's where my help is going to come from. Rav Menachem Tziyoni, which is one of the Talmidei Ramban, writes that the milui of the name Moshe, Mem Shin Hey, so it's Mem, so you have a Mem, and Shin you have a Yud Nun, and Hey you have an Aleph, is Ma'ayin. That the milui of Moshe is Ma'ayin. And that's why Moshe was able to draw down the miracles, to draw down the Nisan. So on the one hand you need the Ma'ayin, you need the total Mesiras Nefesh, the Nachshon ben Aminadav, the surrender, which is, what does that mean? It means, Rebbeinu Shalom, whatever you're doing is the correct thing. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense, but you know better. Total ma'ayin. On the flip side of that same conversation is, but I want this, and I dream about this. Each one is a complete, each without the other one is incomplete. You can have dibur and chodesh and levana and dream. You can't speak and dream without surrender. This is the simple translation. You can't surrender without dreaming and speaking. Either one, you're not going to get what you've done. So you have to speak it. You have to believe it. And simultaneously you have to say, but whatever it is, I fully accept it. Rafeinu Hashem v'nei Rafeh. This is what we do in davening. Rafeinu Hashem v'nei Rafeh. Hashem, please heal me. Baruch atah Rafeh chol Am Yisrael. Rafeh means present tense. You just ask for healing. Not saying that the HaKadosh Baruch is a healer. And the answer that both simultaneously is true. I'm asking this person to be healed, but then I look at the person and I say, but he's already healed. And I ask him to be healed, but he's already healed. Because that's the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be like that. So obviously he's healed, even though he looks sick to me. But I still ask to be healed. So you're entering back and forth from yesh and ayin. The yesh is the koyach hadibur, the power of speech, and the power to imagine. The ayin is the surrender. Getting back to what this whole thing of Yetzias Mitzrayim is, the entire concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's connected with the Shevet Yehuda, which is Hagadah and Idah and thankfulness and gratefulness. It's connected with the Hey, with the koyach hadibur. It's the passivity. On one hand, total passivity. The bittul, the nullification of the ego, of your attachments. You know the famous difference between chametz and matzah? The chametz represents an inflation, something that's inflated, and the matzah, chametz represents inflation, and matzah represents something that's with nothing, that comes from the Rabaz. But the idea of chametz and matzah, the difference between a hey and a ches, when you say boitkim as a chametz lo yaner, boitkim means also boidek, to pierce, to pierce the chametz. To pierce the chametz means to deflate your chametz. Someone once came to the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, and told him that everyone is stepping on me on the Beis Medrash. Wherever I go, people are stepping all over me. So he told him, who asked you to spread yourself over the entire Beis Medrash? You spread yourself over everywhere, you extend into everyone's space, and then you worry why people are stepping over you. And then you create inflation of stories. This person didn't look at me, didn't say Good Shabbos because he hates me, I don't like him, and didn't speak to me, and that person didn't talk to me. You have to be boiting as a chametz. First thing is the idea of bittul, the ayin. In the ayin, there also has to be a simultaneous dibur, and the simultaneous emunah and belief in the possibility. And this is why the Leila Seder is at night. This is very peculiar, very different. We don't find anywhere in the Torah that mitzvahs are given to us at night. Mitzvahs are generally things we do in the day. Mitzvahs are things we do in the day. You put a film in the day. This mitzvahs Zman we do in the day, or else they have all the Zman. The only things that we do at night is the night of the Seder. The mitzvahs of the night of Leila Seder is at night. The Gra writes something that a lot of people have a hard time understanding, but the Gra writes that Alayla Hazeh, when we say Manashtan Alayla Hazeh, Layla is Lashon Nekeva, and Hazeh is Lashon Zachar. Even though we find a psuk in the Layla is not necessarily, but Pashtus, Layla is with a hay, so it's with a Nekeva. So Layla Hazeh is that the Layla, which is night, today becomes Hazeh, which is day. Today becomes Layla Kayom Yor. That means that the night becomes day, everything becomes clear. It means that the night of Pesach is when in night, in the possibility of night, because night on one hand is Golos, right? It's darkness. But the only way something can, if you're seeing it, if it's day and you're seeing what reality is, then you believe what you see. The place of imagination, the place of dream is at night. Not by day, because by day you're seeing it. But the night of Leila Seder is the night that we can dream of the possibility because it's night. It's impregnated with all possibilities. And this is why it's the power of the night, and the power to reveal things even at night. That's why a lot of the Lashonis that we call in the Torah, when it talks about the mitzvahs that we have to do at night, it calls it Yom. Or like the Gemara says, Or labasa boikim sachamas or there. So the Gemara has a whole big deal. How can you say or day? It should be night. So b'pashtus, it means twilight. That's like the Ravid. But on a more mystical, kabbalistic level, it is or. It's day. That's the whole point. The point is that it's the night that's day. It's the night that's the place of the possibility of all the dreams that we can create all around. And that's Laila Kiyam Yor. And this is really what the night of Pesach is. The night of Pesach is not something that we're celebrating. That's something that happened in the past. Of course, it also happened. Means kipshuti, that you have your own mishugasim, and you have your own golus, and you have your own constrictions and your own limitations, and you're stuck, and you're like the people of Mitzrayim. The same thing. You're so stuck. Vanochi Aster, the Baal Shem says, is that the Hester is so big that you don't even know there's a Hester. It's so dark that you think the dark is light. The night of Pesach gives you a ability and says, wait a second, stop. Stop for a moment. Give it words. Start speaking. Maybe first give a kvetch. Maybe a sigh. Maybe ve'yitzaku. Then become a lant saper. Speak it. Believe it. Create it. And have a munah that will happen. And on the night of Pesach, we should be zoicher to godless, to real expansive mind and expansive consciousness, and we should be zoicher to the end of the goals. Meir v'yameinu. No. It's already pushing it. Thank you.
That was Mams this week. That the Nisan was the Lashon Hara.
Right.
And then he starts saying,
Moshe said the Luton,
he was washing, and then Mama shouldn't because you saw this.
You're talking about the measures that Rashi brings up. That he said that now he realized that why they're
there's so many allusions of Lashon Hara in beautiful.
Oh,
you know the pick and Adam from Breuer?
No. Rav Breuer?
From Exile. He's
not a Breuer.
He's the same family.
Ah.
So he's very busy with this, both together, the seasons and the
You're talking about Shittat HaPchinot, the same guy?
Same guy, yes, guy.
I read that, but I didn't read that one.
He has a few.
But the Shittat HaPchinot, the beauty of that book is for those who know, of course, Bible criticism, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that he said the only way to answer it is to Kabbalah.
Yes.
And he says he doesn't know Kabbalah,
he's
but
taking the ideas from.
Yeah, but he says I don't know Kabbalah so well, but this is the only way you can go through this path.
Yeah.
Very important. He has also. I didn't see that was a sefer.
Yeah, in this forum, he is also he's using the tool that he's
using it for that.
He's using it practically.
He's not B'chaim anymore.
No.
Yeah. I know one of his Talmidim. Yeah. Yeah.
In which he has Talmidim in Masoira. He was the biggest expert in Masoira.
Yeah.
He makes for Masoira Rav Kook. I think he made the Masoira.
Yeah, I know one of his Talmidim. So a very brilliant guy.
He has also one of his Talmidim is Avivi.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Avivi. He wrote very nice books. Kabbalah Zari.
On the Ramchal.
You read them?
Yeah, on Ramchal I read. Kabbalah Zari I have it, but three big.
Go to Chelik Gimel. The first two Chalakim is just
It's
academic. Yeah. If you're interested in that, but the Chelik Gimel is nice. He's a big Talmud Chacham.
Yes?
Yeah. He's a Frum Yid with a long white beard.
Yeah, I know.
But he writes like a scholar. Yeah.